The revival of the Slave Zero franchise with Slave Zero X presents a unique example of modernizing long-dormant IPs. I'm one of the many without prior knowledge of these games, but I felt like their differences in gameplay elements and narrative beats creates a decent starting point for my adventure. Slave Zero X distinguishes itself as a reboot and a title that stands out on its own merits, offering a rich action experience with a high level of challenge. Slave Zero X takes place in a dystopian future, where the lines between organic and mechanical blur in creating living machines known as slaves. The protagonist's mission to assassinate the despotic Sovereign Khan unfolds with a backdrop of rebellion and warfare, offering a narrative depth visually supported by detailed characters and world designs. I was surprised by the length of the narrative, which presents the trial and nuances of this world and some of the characters' struggles. The antagonist also makes their mark by acting as beacons within the stages, constantly taunting and egging you on through the stages. I will say that the lengthy text is sometimes cut off mid-stage because another event triggers hit, which stops any previous conversations from taking place, so it's possible to miss out on something if you find yourself heavily invested in the story. The combat in Slave Zero X is the linchpin of the gameplay experience, presenting a steep learning curve that demands precision, strategy, and perseverance. The system itself is very intricate, requiring players to master a variety of combos and understand the nuances of enemy behavior. The game encourages relentless aggression, with even basic foes necessitating complex juggles to be effectively dispatched. While the game commendably offers a breadth of combat options and celebrates skill through leaderboards, it shrouds much of its mechanics in mystery. The lack of transparency in training modes, combined with the absent enemy health bars and undisclosed score contributions, requires players to create their own strategies and even judge how long it will be until an enemy falls. The confusing action system extends to the defensive mechanics, which may not resonate with all players. For example, the parry system is intended as a critical defense component, but it's punishingly strict. In a game where action unfolds at a breakneck speed, the narrow window for successful parries contrasts sharply with the fluidity of offense. This imbalance can lead to frustration as players are penalized for minor timing missteps, distracting from the overall exhilarated pace of the combat. The result is being absolutely overwhelmed with enemies from both sides of the 2.5D world. In these moments, it's easy to get stun-locked or grappled multiple times back to back without any way to actually respond to enemy attacks. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't bouts of fun here. As you become acquainted with the combo system and understand the directional attacks and how to utilize them, it's entirely possible to be an absolute machine in battle, no pun intended. When timed perfectly, there's a special gauge that can push your enemies away from you, offering you a chance to respond. The frustration that some battles can bring is accented by a mid-stage boss battle that becomes repetitive in these fights, only making each encounter more challenging with the addition of a respawning enemy. It's punishing because even if the attack patterns hardly change, one wrong move can ruin the entire battle. I found myself exhausted during some fights, but I won't deny that the challenge in combat can be fun at times. It mirrors arcade experiences where you have to fight against the game a bit to progress, but the act of doing so undoubtedly instills confidence in you as a gamer. Amidst the frantic battles and dystopian landscapes, the music of Slave Zero X stands out as a triumph. The soundtrack perfectly complements the game's aesthetic, enhancing the sense of urgency and rebellion that permeates the narrative. The tracks mix pulsating electric beats and moody atmospheric pieces, setting the tone for each encounter and exploration with masterful precision. Further, the voice audio, while campy for the most part, is a nice touch on the package. The writing is rather dense and the audio makes the narrative easier to digest. Slave Zero X demands constant engagement and adaptability, leaving little room for passive play. There's a training room that simply allows you to practice combos, but for the most part, you're on your own in this experience. While a core part of its appeal, this intensity also means that players will likely welcome the relaxing view of the end credits. The physical demands of mastering the game's combat system can be taxing, with the intricate combo execution and rapid defensive maneuvers requiring mental and physical dexterity. This is a game that pushes players to their limits, ensuring that the journey, though brief, is memorably challenging. Slave Zero X is a bold reimagining of a lesser-known classic, offering a deep and demanding action experience. Its combat system, while complex and sometimes obtuse, provides a richly rewarding, if not at times frustrating, challenge for those willing to invest the time to master it. The game's narrative, music, and atmosphere combine to create a compelling world that is both an homage to and an evolution of its predecessor. While not without its flaws, Slave Zero X stands as a testament to the potential of video game reboots, delivering a memorable experience that will resonate with action genre fans. Noisy Pixel is giving Slave Zero X a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.